Good evening, everyone. Happy Friday to one and all. I am Derek Day, and he is.
I am Aaron Tomlinson. Great to be with everybody. Great to be with you, Derek.
Good to be with you, Aaron, and good to be with all of you. And before we get too far down the path, let's talk about what's in the glass. You go first.
So I have a chocolate old fashioned, which is chocolate whiskey with, so you don't need the simple syrup because it's already sweet, right?
Yep.
And then I've got some chocolate bitters and just a dash of cherry bitters in there. And I haven't tried it yet. So
Okay.
there goes.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. not
It's
just
very
growing,
tasty.
not just growing in real time. Transformation through conversation, but drinking in real time. Transformation through alcoholism.
Yeah, that'll transform you all right.
I'm I'm having a Kentucky Mule, which is basically bourbon, lime, and ginger ale. But I think I mentioned this last week. I found this syrup. It's hibiscus infused grenadine syrup. And like grenadine is like the stuff you put like in tequila sunrises and all of that to make it, give it the reddish and the orange. So anyway, I put that in instead of simple syrup like you would use for old fashioned, and I did use my orange bitters
Oh,
also.
nice.
So it's a little off the beaten path.
I thought about going with the orange bitters because I like that orange chocolate flavor. So I might try
Yeah.
that. So
Hot damn. All right. So anyway, what are we talking about tonight? And I'll go ahead and introduce this because we're, kind of like last minute in getting our topic in this week. But it's okay because one of the things that I really love about working with you, conversing with you, and just being connected to you is that we could pick any topic and just kind of run with it. And I think that we've gotten pretty proficient at this. But today I wanted us to talk about when you outgrow an old version of yourself.
mm,
And this is one of these things that I think is just incredibly powerful, incredibly liberating, because the only thing that doesn't grow is dead. If it's dead, it can't grow. There's no more life in it. So the changes at that point, like if you're talking about anything biological or organic, that once it's dead, the only change is a chemical change. There's no more biological change. It's all chemical. Um,
mhm.
but when we talk about organic, spirit filled, and I'm gonna borrow that term from Christianity because we are spirit filled. We are full of a spirit, or the spirit of the universe, the spirit of consciousness, the spirit of God, whatever you want to call it. We are filled with that spirit. That spirit is what gives us animation,
Yeah.
and that spirit fires growth. It fires intellectual growth, emotional growth, spiritual growth, and physical growth. So it does a lot. And one of the things that I've learned over the 64 years that I've been walking the earth is that the only thing that's consistent is change.
Yeah.
you know and I'm on this kaizen thing, which kaizen is a compound word in Japanese. Kai meaning change and zen meaning good, and when you put it together, change is good. So I take this kaizen approach to life, and I say, okay, what and I don't look at making sea changes. I look at the incremental changes.
Yeah.
What little things can I do that will yield a big result? And,
Yeah.
and when you do this change, when you go through this change, you're going into a phase where you're growing out of what you were.
hmm
And Paul in the Bible called it putting on the new man. putting on the new man. So in order to put on something, you typically have to take off something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like how a snake grows by shedding its skin, a lobster grows by shedding its shell. So there's this constant change going on. And I'm going to kick this off with talking about a change that I went through. I went through several spiritual changes in the
Yeah.
last 3 years. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I went from being a Christian to being an atheist to well, actually, let's say being from going to be a Christian to an atheist to being agnostic and saying, okay, now I like to call myself an agnostic anti-theist. In other words, I don't really have any use for theism in any shape, way, shape, form, or fashion. But what I did is I gave myself the license to grow. I gave myself to the license to create a new version of me. And if you
Yeah.
think about this too, like I think we've talked about this in a show before, that biologically through cell reproduction, cell regeneration, that we are literally not the same person we were a year ago. Literally, we're a different person. But
Right.
in terms of your mentality, in terms of your spirituality, in terms of your emotion, in terms of your intellect, you should be in a constant state of change. There should always be something that's able to shake loose something that you held on to. And so man, this topic really excites me. I don't know if you could tell, I'm like really, really animated. But when I love the fact that I have outgrown myself several times in a short period of time. And,
Mm-hmm.
and and each and every one of you that's listening, that's watching this, that you too have the license to do this. And it's not me giving you the license. It's not God giving you the license. It's not Aaron giving you the license. You, this is your own personal franchise that you can exercise. And with that, Aaron, I'm going to shut up and kick it over to you.
Yeah, I was thinking immediately about the topic. I was thinking immediately about the snake shedding its skin, right? Because if people don't understand the process, the snake grows, but the skin doesn't. And so it restricts movement, and eventually the snake ends up shedding the skin. And we have a lot of snakes around here, and my kids, for whatever reason, early on decided that they loved them. And so we would often find, shedded snake skin in our yard or whatever, and they would love to bring that in and kind of torment me, right? Because they knew better than to bring a live snake in, unless it was a garter snake. But the bull snake.
Are you like Indiana Jones? I hate snakes.
Dude, I can so relate to that. So relate to that. And I didn't want to pass. I'm scared of them, and I didn't want to pass that on to my kids. So I just kind of grin and bear it. But they learned pretty quick. If they wanted to like terrify me, just like come in and just catch me off guard and throw an old snake skin at me. Oh God. Still, I can feel it in my gut just talking about it. But I think that's a great visual image for this talk, because when you think about yourself, are you that renewed, growing organism that is a snake, or are you just dragging around an old snake skin and scaring everybody?
That's one way of putting it.
Because change is hard. If change was easy, everybody would do it. And I think outgrowing our former self is especially hard because we have this inner life, which you mentioned already, old mindsets, or you mentioned your own evolution in spirituality. If you'd have stayed, drilled down into any one of your positions, you would have stopped the growth at whatever point you just put your stake down and said, that's it, I'm not moving on from here, right? So you got this internal change that's happening. You're growing internally, you're growing in your thinking, your beliefs are changing. And then we have a social world that we have to navigate. We have relationships that we have to navigate. And that's where it can become difficult, because people are relating to the person that people liked when we got into relationship with them is the person that we were when they got into relationship with us.
Right.
And that's one of the things I made this statement because it became really clear to me when I started deconstructing. At least back then, 10 years ago, even 7 years ago, I think love was still the message. I'm not sure.
Yep.
I'm not sure it is today at all.
No.
When you got Christians out there saying empathy is a sin and
Yeah.
all this other stuff. But back when I was deconstructing, we were still under the illusion that, love your neighbor as yourself, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that implies that you allow for growth, right? And churches don't like that. I was just texting someone just right before we jumped on, and without saying too much, because I don't, he's in a situation, still in the church, and in a situation where he's challenging some things, not even in a negative way. He's challenging it in a very positive, growth-oriented way for the church, and he's being accused of causing division and not listening to the Holy Spirit, and you know the thing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it hinders this growth, right? So then you have to make a decision. I'm not saying this about this person. I'm just saying in general, you have to make a decision how you're going to navigate through that. Am I going to stay in the old snakeskin because it's causing too much friction in my relationships, my social world, or am I going to continue to grow? And then if you're in relationship with someone, like the best definition of a flourishing marriage I ever heard was when the two of you allow the other to grow.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of breakups happen, a lot of divorces happen around these peripheral issues, irreconcilable differences or whatever. But sometimes it's just the other person has grown and they're not the same person that said, I do.
Yeah.
And I think it's possible to grow in different directions and still have a healthy marriage. I'm not even saying you have to grow together, like
Right.
the old diagram, you got God up here. I don't know if you ever saw it, but you got God
Yep.
up here.
I know
And
it.
then you got the husband and wife, and as you're growing in God, you grow closer together.
Yep.
I think it could be like this, but you can still make it work as long as you're willing to give each other that room and that space to grow. So
Yep.
that's my introductory offering.
And that's really good too, because you make a really good point that a lot of times the way change is framed when you say you outgrow yourself, most people will say that this will mean you're outgrowing the people around you.
Right.
And it may not be the case. You may not be outgrowing them. You may be growing different than they are. You're a different branch of the same plant, if you will.
Yeah.
But you're still engrafted. That there is a common bond that holds you together. And so what I think is that when we think about change in relationships, the only time I think that change should not be honored is when you change in such a way that's detrimental to the other person or to the relationship in general. At that point, there has to be some consideration made. But aside from that, I think that people can grow in different directions, and it can all be good. And so one of the things too, I want to kind of piggyback on your whole snake
analogy
metaphor or illusion.
Illusion.
That, like, let's say, and this happens too, that where a snake is trying to shed and it can't. And so with domesticated snakes, they have the help of their owner, their person. And they're able to get in there with a pocket knife or whatever and split the skin and help the snake go through its morphing. But in the wild, there's not that. And here's what I'm saying is that if a snake does not shed its skin, there's an odor of death that comes from the snake.
Interesting.
Right. And so if the snake begins to have the odor of death, it's going to repel other snakes. So it limits its socialization. I'm not sure if the odor is perceptible to humans or not, but it's like a snake will know if another snake is stuck in their skin shedding.
Interesting.
So I say that to say is that when you're changing, or if you're trying to change and you can't, if there's something that's sticking you in place, you might begin to give off a spiritual odor. Something in your aura will change that'll be repulsive to others. And so that's what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at here, Aaron, I'm trying to work all of this together.
No, it's
Is
good.
that
Keep going.
is that sometimes you need somebody to help you shed your skin. I have a story for that too, right? Because when um, when I went from being a what do you call it, a futurist Christian, to seeing things from more through a preterist lens.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to explain all of that. If y'all want to just look it up, futurist versus preterist. But Simon Yap helped me shed my skin there.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
there were people like yourself or like Danita Finn or that helped me shed my skin, that allow me to become more inclusionist or universalist, right? And then there were people that helped me shed my skin of Christianity, so that I could become an atheist. And then you and I always will say this: you, my sister Sandy, my wife Maya, uh, and Jew, the four of you were instrumental in helping me not be an atheist, because through the four of you, I was able to see something else. I was able to see beyond my own understanding. So, in that sense, you guys helped to cut off the old skin that allowed me to grow.
Yeah.
And so, what I'm saying is, and this is where I'm going to stop, is that sometimes, and people say, "Oh, I'm growing, or I'm outgrowing this person," or people say, "You're outgrowing me." It may not be the case. It may be that person, that the person in your life, or if someone else is going through change, you might just have to be the one to help them snip the skin so that they can get out, so their spiritual aura doesn't become repulsive to others. Because what happens is, when you get stuck, you emulate death. And if you emulate death, listen, uh, nobody likes dead people. Even morticians really don't. They do it. They do a work. They
Serial
do a
killer?
service. What's that?
Serial killers?
Yeah, I don't even think the serial killers like dead bodies. I think they like killing. Yeah, sure. But the aftermath, I don't think that they're too crazy about it. I don't think anybody is. But
Tell that to Jeffrey Dahmer.
yeah, well, I don't know.
I'm,
Not
I'm just
Jeffrey
messing with you,
Dahmer.
bro.
We're going way down the rabbit hole
I
now.
know, like I'm totally getting you sidetracked. Sorry, bro.
Transformation through conversation.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, what I'm saying is that you don't, when you're going through change, don't be so arrogant to think that, hey, I'm just outgrowing everybody around me.
Right.
You have to look at the people around you and say, okay, are these people still adding value to my life? Are they still meaningful to my life? Are they still part of my life? Part of the trunk that gives life to my branches, right?
Mhm.
And if they are, you're going to have to be understanding with them, and ask them to be patient with you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hopefully, sometimes it may be that person who is giving you consideration, understanding, or extending patience to you, they might be the one to cut off the skin and help you grow.
Mm. I like that. Even though now I'm just a moment of transparency. I was just talking to a friend about this afternoon, having this conversation, and you text me the titles, and I even showed them. I'm like, look at this. Like, this is just exactly what we're talking about. Like Derek's psychic. Um,
The
but so
universe has spoken.
yeah, exactly. It's a sign and a wonder. Um, but yeah, so basically, I stink right now
Well, you know,
because I feel stuck in my skin. I'm just being honest and transparent. I'm going through this process right now in a lot of ways, and I think what's difficult about the process for me, everybody's going to be different, right? But what's difficult about the process for me is the unknown. Like, I don't think this is just me. I think there's something with human beings in general. With obviously, there's exceptions, right? I'm not
yep,
generalizing. I think a lot of people can relate to this. Sometimes we'd rather choose the predictable because it feels more secure
yep,
and it feels more under our control.
yep,
Whereas when we're going through transformation and change and growth, we don't control our growth, right? Like, I'm tall enough, but as I was coming into my stature, I always wanted another inch or another 2 inches. Like, I wanted to make it to 6'5",
yep.
and only made it to 6'3" and whatever. Um, or now, I've banged my head enough on stuff that I'm like, 5'10" would have been cool. um, but like, you get the point, right? Like, we have no control necessarily over our growth. And if that growth is producing real change in our lives, then by definition, that means that we have to let go of the predictable.
Yep,
Because if it's predictable, it's static, right? It
yep,
hasn't changed. And there's something about going into this open space of the unpredictable that is scary because it can all go wrong,
yep.
right? And so, and I'm one of these, worst case scenario thinkers. So my brain, I've got a Google search of doom in my head. Like, well, if that scenario doesn't work, I'll talk myself out of one scenario, and then this little part inside me clicks on the next one, and it's even worse than the first one I saw. and but on the flip side of that, when I step into a space where I don't know what's going to happen, and I can't predict how it's all going to go, and I can't predict how it's all going to work out, that also creates space for goodness to come,
Yep,
for serendipity to come, for good fortune to come my way.
yep,
And so I feel like, because I'm in transition with my career and just still figuring this deconstruction spirituality thing out
yep.
on some levels, and I've just kind of gotten to this place where personally it's like, I don't know that it's so much that I'm stuck in my skin, or if it's I don't know what the next phase even begins to look like.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure what the next step is to take. And
Yes.
that, combined with my Google searches of doom, can leave me sometimes in this frozen response where I miss opportunities because I'm behind
Yep.
the timing of my personal life, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It
The way
makes
I said
perfect sense. Yeah. It's like and that's another thing too. We get caught up in analysis paralysis, and it was something that I learned from you. Like I always, fight or flight, fight or flight. But you said no. There's a third one. It's fawn. You can
Yeah,
fawn or freeze, right? And you're in the middle of a decision. You're not running away from it, but you're not leaning into it. You're just kind of like frozen there,
yep,
and you feel as though you're being reduced to an observer, right?
yep, yep,
And that's another thing too. Like why I think having people that are change minded or I won't say necessarily change minded, but let's just say change friendly.
yeah. There you go. I like that.
because they don't necessarily have to be, all about change, but they could say, okay, I see where you're changing. And as your friend, as your brother or whatever, I honor that.
Yeah.
And so they're change friendly. So that's why, having people that are change friendly, the importance of having them in your life, because if they see you in a fight, flight, or a fawn situation, they can speak to that. They can say to you, hey dude, this change is good, why are you running away from it? Or this change is bad, why are you running into it? And then it's like, okay, dude, why are you frozen? Make a decision, choose a path, get off your ass and move, right? And so it's important to have that. But one of the things that I want to talk about, we kind of touched on this already, is how people relate to you when you change.
Yeah.
And because of that, people disabuse themselves of the franchise to outgrow their old selves, because they say, if I grow this way, person X will not love me anymore, or their love for me may be different. And and here's the thing, because change is good, if they don't love you the same way, that might be good, because
Right.
it could be that their love is changing to accommodate your change, or that their change, your change, makes them uncomfortable, and therefore catalyzes some change in them. So um, what I'm thinking is that when we come to the point, we come to a crossroads in our life, and we say, okay, I need to do this or I need to do that. But whatever I do, it's not going to be the same path that I've been on. Um, you have to first understand that being alive, being sentient, means that change is going to come. Change is going to be the only consistent thing that you come across, and that when you do change, you have to again shed that fear of what this may mean to someone else. I think that one of the things that stops us from outgrowing our old selves, and you mentioned this before, like comfort, right? People like certainty. They like what's and again, quantifiable, right? And this is where, like, spirituality and quantum physics, I think, kind of share a common denominator, because there's this undergirding principle of uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so knowing that uncertainty is there, it gives us a license to pursue things that we can learn about, that we can isolate this and say, okay, this is a learning moment, or this is this is a milestone in my life.
Mm-hmm.
um, but again, you have to give yourself that license, and sometimes that means uh, not giving a shit what people think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard one, because we care about what our spouse thinks, we care about what our kids think, we care about what our friends think, and our coworkers. And so if I come across something too different, I could risk alienating them. But here's the thing, this is the good news, that there is the risk that you may alienate them, but it's also the possibility that you may stimulate some additional growth in
Yeah.
them.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yep.
Because like part of the problem, so this is classic Jungian psychology. Carl Jung talked about projection, and
Yep.
most people are aware, I guess, if they know anything about shadow work or Carl Jung or projection at all, that I will attack what I see in someone else that I hate within myself, right?
Yeah.
So on the other hand, though, that's more likely. Carl Jung talked about the golden shadow, and most people don't even know what a golden shadow is. So the golden shadow is also disowned parts of myself. So typical shadow work is stuff that I don't acknowledge about myself.
Mhm.
And then when I see it show up in someone else, that's the projection part. I attack it in them. I don't like it. I feel an emotional charge. The golden shadow is the same principle in the other direction. I see something in you, Derek, that I really admire. I see something in you that you're so intelligent, you're so well spoken, right? Now, if I have those same qualities, but I'm not comfortable in them for whatever reason,
Mm.
I haven't owned them, I will see those qualities in you, and I can even become jealous
Mm.
of you
Even though you
because
have the same qualities.
even though I have the same thing, I haven't owned it. So I'm seeing myself in you, but because I haven't owned it, I can get jealous about it. I can get
Mm.
envious about it. I can get upset about it, or I can fall in love. Both can happen.
Well, I love you too, man.
But my point is, so when you're growing, you have no idea how you're activating that psychological process in the people that are around you. And so if you're changing and growing spiritually and someone else is very bitter towards spirituality
Mhm.
because of past experiences, or they're jealous of spirituality because they haven't had spiritual experiences or whatever, and they see you growing, or you're growing financially, or you're growing into a new relationship, right?
Yeah.
Maybe whatever the case may be, and that can trigger all kinds of stuff. So David and Saul are a great example of this,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yep.
Saul's king, but David's killing more than Saul's killing. David
Right.
has the anointing. Saul has the office. So
Yep.
what does he do? He starts throwing spears at David, even though
Yep.
David's heart was only to serve Saul, right?
Yep.
So I would nuance, and this is a growing in real time moment. I'm just thinking this through, talking this through with you. I've never had this thought before in my life, as far as I know, because like you, I've always said, told my kids, told other people, counseled people, well, you just can't care what other people think.
Yeah.
But as I was listening to you talk in this context, I would nuance that a little bit now and say, I care what people think about
Yep.
me, but what I don't want to do is cede permission or responsibility for my own growth to someone else. So
Yep.
here's what I mean by that. My growth, my change is upsetting someone in my life that I care deeply about. I care about what that person thinks about me, but not to the extent that I need their permission to grow,
That.
that I need their approval and acceptance to express myself from the place of growth.
Okay. I'm growing in real time too. Keep going.
Yeah. So, because that is one is an issue of care,
Mhm.
like it bothers me that you think this about me, or I really care about you and I want you to hold me in positive esteem or unconditional positive regard or something like that.
Mhm.
But the moment I stop my process because you don't like what I'm doing is the moment that I give up my personal power over my own life and over my own destiny
Right.
and essentially become your servant, not your friend.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
Or your spouse or whatever. I'm your slave. I'm your servant. I'm your indentured servant. You own me
Yeah.
because I can't tolerate within myself the idea that you don't like me.
And I think you made a really essential nuance here. And this is my growing in real time moment, because I always, I operate from this. Well, I don't really give a fuck what people think, and I say that all the time, but I do care, you know, and it's easy to uh, basically relinquish your franchise
Mhm.
to change or to grow, and to your point, that at that point when you make that decision, you become the servant of that person. And that is a dangerous place to be, because like I started off this conversation, man, this is so liberating. This is so liberating. And now you presented a potential snare
Mm-hmm.
of bondage, of enslavement. That if we want to care, that's just like, okay, so Aaron, I'll say this, most people, I really don't care what they think, but
Yeah, right.
people that are close to me, is like, I care what you think about me. I care what Maya thinks about me. I care what my kids think about me. And so what happens is that if I say, well, I'm just not going to go in this direction anymore. I'm going to arrest my own development for the sake of pleasing you. I have become your slave. I've made you my liege lord. And at that point, that's when I think, when abuse, that's an avenue for abuse to occur,
100%.
because you set yourself up to where, okay, I'm sacrificing myself. And let me say this too, that this is a real big one, is that if you don't exercise your franchise to outgrow the old you, that what happens is that you if you don't exercise this, you wind up arresting your own development. I mean, and at that point, it's not somebody else doing something to you. It's a self-inflicted wound. You are shooting yourself in the foot. You're hobbling yourself. You're doing the Kathy Bates thing to yourself, right? So you have to really be careful that you don't fall into this snare. And man, this is something big, Aaron. And I think everybody is listening. You really need to hear this, because in the process of growth, there are snares in your path. Some of them are set by others. Some of them are set by conditions, environments, or whatever,
Yeah.
but some are snares that you've set. You put traps in front of you in the event you go too far. And you have to be careful. It's like you have to oh man. I'm like I'm like
Well, it came from you. I was listening to you, and then I'm like, oh, huh, yeah. So,
no,
I
dude,
mean, like I said, I've never said those things in my life, I don't think.
no, I mean, but this is something that, I'm hearing what you said about what I said, and just like
Yeah.
you're growing, I'm
Yeah.
having this moment. I am, eh, you know, I'm literally growing in real time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. One of the things that's really helped me in the last couple of years, maybe in the last year especially, is everybody does. This is hard to say. We live in such a divided culture. We live in such a good guy, bad guy culture. But the truth is, for the most part, every action or situation that a person's creating, every mindset, somewhere in there, there's a positive intention.
yeah,
It just gets twisted and distorted in life and comes out in very destructive ways, right?
yeah,
So if let's take jealousy. I brought that up, right? That can be golden shadow stuff. I can be jealous about someone else who has the exact same qualities that I have, but I don't recognize them in myself. I can become jealous of a group of people that have the
Mhm.
same qualities that I have, but I'm jealous of, and I can start attacking that group of people, or I can start attacking that person. The positive intention, I think, behind that envy and that jealousy is I want what you have. There's nothing wrong with that,
Right,
right?
right,
But because I feel powerless and because I feel like I'm lacking, it comes out in a really distorted fashion, right? So
yeah,
human beings are really complex. This is what's so fascinating is human beings are really complex entities.
yeah,
Our problems are complex. The way we think is complex. The way we relate is complex. Our bodies are complex, right? But the problem is our brain likes simplicity.
Yep.
Our brain wants simplicity and our brain wants closure. And I'll give you a good example. You remember during the Olympics when, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the specifics. I didn't pay that much attention to it, but I think there was a female boxer and they were saying that she was male.
Right.
And they blew it up into this whole thing, right?
Yep. Yep.
So why am I talking about this?
That's
if
okay.
I'm getting totally off track, let me know.
No, go ahead. Because here's the thing. I love when we go out, off on a tangent and we're able to pull it back in, but keep going.
But see, here's the thing. Like, if I were to ask somebody, like I had to learn this stuff. When do you first experience puberty? Do you know?
It depends. It's like,
give me an age range.
Let's say anywhere between 10 and 13 years old.
It's exactly what I thought too. Your first puberty is in the womb.
Ooh.
It's in the womb.
Come on, let's talk about that a little bit more.
You get the hormones, the male or female hormones, in a bath in the womb, and it's completely separate from your genitalia development. So a female fetus can go through a male puberty in the womb, or a male fetus can go through a female puberty in the womb.
Holy shit. Okay.
And that will be reflected in your chromosomes.
Wow. So that hormonal bath that you get can influence, inform, or impact your genetic makeup.
100% as male or female. So the point I'm making is this is not a binary issue because we want it simple. It's just about your genitalia, which you were a screw or a nut.
Right. A nut or a bolt.
A plug or a plug-in, right?
You're right.
Our brain's like simple. So let's just stop there. And so this woman was born with female genitalia.
Yep.
But she had a male puberty in the womb.
In the womb.
So which one is she, right? So I'm just using this to illustrate the complexity of who we are as human beings and the fact that our brain wants simplicity. So we'll disrespect the perplexity in order to attack based on the simplicity because we don't like it. So we'll make this issue just like pro-life, same way, right? Like, like it can't be nuanced at all. We're just, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if the mom's going to die. Doesn't matter if the baby's going to be born into a really low quality of life. Doesn't matter if it was rape or incest. Doesn't matter if it was like, it's just from a certain perspective, it's just very binary, right? Without bringing in all of the complexities of human life and human development and humanity and their issues. And so that has given me more compassion for people to understand. It goes back to your ask how many questions? 100 questions?
600 questions.
Ask 600 questions. It goes back to your 600 question rule that you've talked about so many times on here. We have no idea why a person is acting, being, responding the way that they're doing. And most of the time, in my experience with therapy, they don't even know why they're acting, doing, being, or responding the way that they're doing. And we live in a culture that really lacks patience for that, right?
Yep.
So maybe that's part of my own growth because I have noticed I've really grown. If I can say there's an area I've really grown in tolerance and patience for people who are in process because you never know.
Yeah.
You never know when they're coming out of their skin or they're stuck in their skin.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm supposed to be like that owner and clip it and help them come out. But instead I'm like Aaron and chopping its head off.
I hate snakes.
Only good snake is a dead snake. They told me the devil was a serpent in the beginning, and it made sense to me,
It
man.
makes
I'm like,
perfect
of
sense.
course it would be a snake. The devil. Anyway, that's a long. I mean, I really digressed and got off on.
No, that was a perfect tangent, and one of the things that I want to say that I too have experienced this, and I go through this with a lot of my um, Republican friends, and I say the Republican friends that have not, gone full headlong into Trumpism, but they're still out on the fringes. Is that they'll say that well, sex is binary. Well, yes and no. It's like you could say that biological sex is binary, but even then,
But
there are variations in that.
it changes it. So
It
by
does.
they're completely wrong biologically. It's
Yeah.
not a binary issue.
I mean,
But most people don't know that. I didn't
but then you talk about like emotionally, hormonally.
Yeah.
There are so many combinations and permutations that. Anyway, so you were saying learning to have empathy for people who are in process, right? And there is a reason why when you're like especially like in a downtown area that's growing, you'll see all of these under construction signs, construction and barriers between you and the construction. Why? Because there is some change taking place here that you may not be privy to, you may not be part of, but we're putting up the flag so that you understand that there is some change in place. So number one, that you don't step in and get hurt by the change. Number two, you don't get in and try to do something that will hurt the change. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to hurt the change, right? And I think that that's something that we have to learn. And I think that when we learn to accept growing out of our own selves, that when we give ourselves the license to do that, that it liberates us to give that same license to others. And so when I see a work in process sign on somebody, and it's not like a sign that they got it draped around their neck, work in progress. No, you may see it in something they say, something that they act, some manifestation that lets you know that there is something underfoot here, right? And when you give yourself the license to change, it's easy to extend that franchise to others, or to help others see that franchise in themselves. And I want to say this too before I shut up, is that a lot of times that when people are growing, right, the greatest resistance, well, there are two great resistances. One is yourself. You grow comfortable with who you are, and so change becomes uncomfortable, it becomes unsettling to you. But it becomes there are people who have a significant influence in your life, and they'll see this and they'll say, well, I don't like the way you're doing, I don't like what you're saying, I don't like what you're doing. And again, you can get caught up in that to where you're arresting your own development, or you're allowing someone else to control your development. But what you have to say is, okay, and let me say this: you can go back and see a change in someone else, and you can say, I remember when you were going through something, and now you don't recognize the fact that you've changed, and now you're galvanized in this position, and you want me to be galvanized in this position. And you have to point that out. How we always talk about calling out bad behaviors among people. You have to call this out and say, hey, when you were changing, I was empathetic, I was afraid of it, I was uncomfortable with it, I didn't like it, but out of my love and respect for you, that I've allowed you to go through your change. Now I'm at a similar crossroads. I need you to extend the same empathy and compassion toward me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. let's maybe take the last few minutes and talk about what I think can be a real hindrance to change. And I want to bring up shame.
Yes.
And here's how I want to frame this and set this up. Like, I don't know, man. It just bothers me. Like, we live in a culture where, everything's on camera, everything's online, things go
Mhm.
viral, whatever. Um, Man, I've had some bad moments. I've had some bad moments. I'll tell you one in particular. It was for a friend. They were getting their tires changed, and I don't remember. It was at Montgomery Ward's back in the day.
Mm. Wow.
And it was one of my buddy's wives, and he was out of town, and they totally took advantage of her. I don't even remember what the issue was, but I was pissed, and it was one of those interactions that kept escalating.
Hmm.
And the manager comes out. He's a big old boy. He's big, right? And I am so pissed. And through my father's line, we have like this look that can absolutely kill you. Like,
Yeah.
literally the evil eye, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, legit. My nieces and nephews have talked about it. My kids have talked about it. Like, so I can just present in this way. Like, I'm not a tough guy, but I can present in a way that will make you think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm going off on this guy, and he's literally shaking. He's like literally giving me my money back and shaking.
Mm.
And I thought he was going to cry. And I have made grown men cry in that situation, just with my presence and my words, right?
Yeah.
Not something I'm proud of. I'm not bragging about it. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I can do the intimidation factor pretty good. Couple months go by. Sunday morning, I come out. This is back when you had to protect the anointing,
Yeah.
so you couldn't come out and get the smell of the sheep on you or whatever.
Right. Right.
I was doing what was modeled for me, right? So I come out of my office. The worship's already started a little bit. Everybody's settled in, and I come out, and we got maybe 50 people at the time. And guess who's sitting in one of those chairs?
That guy.
The manager from Montgomery Ward's.
Mm.
And I thought, was it really worth it? Like, I think I got $30 back or something from my friend. Like, was it really worth I don't remember the specifics. This was, gosh, 25, 30 years ago, whatever it was, 25 years ago.
The guy probably was looking at you with the devil's in the pulpit.
He walked out. He got up and walked out.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm using that point to illustrate, like, would I want somebody filming that moment and then putting it on social media and it goes viral?
Mm-hmm.
And I see hundreds of comments on each post each time it gets reshared, and whatever. There's all these comments about what an asshole, what a jerk, what a Kevin or a Chad or whatever they call us.
Yeah.
These days, the male version of a Karen. Right? Because I grew from that. I never did that again after that. Like, that taught me something. You know what I'm saying? But here's the trick. We can hold ourselves captive to our worst moments in life and think that we're either not worthy of the change, or we don't deserve the change, or who do I think I am that I'm coming out and presenting in this way after everything I did in my past. Like, we can get frozen in those shameful moments of time because they carry that. It's just that was 5 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
But I can take 5 minutes of my life at my worst moment and turn it into a character.
Yep.
And then I feel obligated to play that character, or if I try to move out from that character, there's these voices that are like, who do you think you are? Remember what you did. They don't. This is where imposter syndrome comes from, right? Like, I'm presenting myself a certain way. Yeah, but if they really knew you, if they really knew what you thought, if they really knew what you did, if they'd have known about what these actions over here, or you know, if they knew your favorite flavor of porn or whatever the case may be, like they, and so that shame can be another one of these snares. That's not a snare that comes from growth, but something that puts us in that freeze response or that fawning response that you were talking about earlier, that totally prevents us from growth. And so the tragic thing is I will live out from that character that was really just a moment in time and not reflective of the person that I am today.
Yep. And, you know, you were talking about shame. I'm going to share a story with you. I've never shared this publicly, but when Ducey turned 18, he and I took a trip to Vegas. We flew out to Vegas for a 3-day concert, right?
Yeah.
And while we were out there, you know, or while we were coming back, we're on the flight from Vegas to, I don't know, I think we're supposed to be connecting in Denver. And I had set my iPad in the seat pocket. I told you the story.
Yeah, keep going. I remember this.
And so when I came back, my iPad was gone. Now I know I put my iPad there, and dude, I went off. And I was like, this plane's not taking off until I get my laptop and all that. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, this is what I'm going to do. I know my iPad is turned on. I'm going to do Find My on my phone. And when the chirp goes off, whoever has my iPad, I'm going to fuck them up. That's what I said. And I was really, and I'm like you, I have this mode that once I get in it, it's like, you know, watch out, right? And I was in that mode. And so this guy stepped up, he said, dude, I'm sorry, I took your iPad. And instead of, you know, calming down and just saying, well, okay, cool, I got it back, you know, no, I'm like, I'm ready to rip this guy's throat out, you know, and Ducey stands up and he's like, Dad, you know, you don't want to be internet famous this way.
Mm.
And to this day, I mean, while it would have been absolutely gratifying to have hit this guy and broken something, just the fact that I went out the way that I did, I'm ashamed of myself to this day.
Mm.
So it's like I'm sharing this, you know, being transparent about this because, you know, you can have something that causes you shame and you don't speak about it. And then it winds up being some kind of hidden thing, right? So you're not able to be transparent with the people around you.
Yeah.
And it's, man, yeah, you know, operating from shame is operating from a posture of self-weakness.
Yeah.
You know, in other words, you're weakening yourself. You're weakening your own position. It isn't somebody else, you know, inhibiting your power. You inhibit your own power when you operate in shame. So yes, and shame is an inhibitor to growth.
Yep.
So good point.
It's a huge inhibitor to growth because who are you? You know, shame says, who are you to change your behavior in this way because you're not the person you're behaving as right now, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So in other words, you know, if I'm looking at my role as a father, mm-hmm. and I can look back on certain seasons and say I was too wrapped up in ministry, or I was too wrapped up in whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I would have been more present. Now, first off, studies show our memories are really crappy anyway. Half the stuff we think happened to us probably didn't happen to us anyway.
Yeah.
But let's just say, so you don't even know if that's factual evidence. Right. What are those? It's football season again. What are those commercials with the insurance company where the guy throws the replay flag, the couple's fighting over something? And
oh, yeah. I forget. Is that Progressive?
The guy throws the replay flag, and almost always it's the man that was wrong, right?
Yeah.
like we don't have access to that. And even if we did, that's still in the past. That's just a recording. Even if it's on film, it's just a recording, right? Okay, so I could look at that and then I could say, you know what? I wish I would have been, let's just say, more present at these various different ages of my kids' lives. Now my kids are teenagers. I'm going to be more present. And I can start to show up for them and feel like, who are you to start showing up for them now? This is just an act. This is just, I've had clients, you know, because I work with the younger clientele, or did when I was at the college. And I've had them tell me, you know, I hate my dad or I hate my mom because they're this sweet person now, and they're all trying to be present with me, and they're trying to be involved in my life. Or where were you at my t-ball game when I was 8 years old? And they're not able to recognize the change. They're not able to recognize the growth. And where it leads, and so what invariably what happens is the child and the parent get into a fight, because the child will say something like that. And I know inside myself, it's probably triggering that parent's shame, and they don't want to wear that. And so they're fighting it inside themselves, but now they're fighting it with their daughter.
Yeah. Yep.
Or their son. And so being able to cleanse our minds somehow of the past. And this is one thing where I do think, and this triggered some people, I don't believe that God was pissed at us or had to send his son to die for our sins and all that stuff.
Yep.
I don't believe that at all as an ontological, cosmological reality. But I do believe that there is psychological benefit in the appropriation of some kind of redemption. So in other words, I think it provided a symbolic tool for the psyche to deal with the past, to say, I'm cleansed by the blood of Jesus.
Yeah.
My sins are forgiven and will not be remembered. I'm a new creation in Christ, because it opened up a framework in the mind that can empower us to put away our past and to put away shame and to deal with shame. Right.
But let me say this to that, you know, people that seek external forgiveness, external redemption, right? But don't extend that to themselves.
Right. 100%.
That forgiveness essentially becomes meaningless. Because what you have some external form of forgiveness or redemption, you know, restitution or whatever, but you don't extend that to yourself. It's like you still beat yourself up over this, that someone else has long absolved you of it.
But here's the thing, though, Derek. I think there's something in our psyches that we need someone else to witness are not guilty. Like when I forgive you for something, I'm providing a witness to you that I recognize that was just a moment in time, and I'm not holding it against you. And you receive this witness, this affirmation.
Yeah.
We can't give that to ourselves.
You know what? Now I
want you to challenge me. Come on.
Slightly disagree with you.
I want to go in real time. Yeah,
because
please.
I think that you know, I believe you're right. It's really helpful. It's really cathartic to have someone observe the change and say, okay, I see where you made this change, and I forgive you, right? But what happens is that a lot of times we'll get the external forgiveness, but we carry that shame with us.
You're right.
We never forgive ourselves. So maybe you know, I'm you know, having this moment of you know, a cart before the horse, and it may not be that. It may be a parallel track where, yes, it is absolutely helpful, absolutely cathartic, absolutely healing for you to have this external forgiveness, this external observation of the change that you've made, but you yourself also have to acknowledge this change that you made.
You're 100% right, because you're absolutely right. When you look at it from that perspective, yeah, we can be forgiven, we can be reconciled, and we can still be holding ourselves prisoner to what we did. And so in that case, having someone else witness and offer that reconciliation, offer that forgiveness, doesn't deal with
Mhm.
the internal working and the internal processing. So it's curious to me and interesting to me, like how we, like there are some people, like obviously they don't have a conscience, right? They don't have shame. They don't, I mean, I'm not talking about psychopaths. I'm talking about, like, there are some people that don't deal in shame as much as others. I mean, clearly a psychopath has no shame.
Right.
We're back to Jeffrey Dahmer. That was my goal. I was going to bring it back to serial killers.
Damn it, Tommy.
But I think if you are I don't know. I don't know what causes it. I don't know what causes it. I know it's something in my own life that I've had to deal with a lot. Like, I will feel ashamed over the dumbest shit.
Yeah.
Like literally the dumbest stuff. And hold on to that against myself for periods of time that are way inappropriate and hinder my own getting out of my own skin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so so for me, the Christian frames of God has cleansed me, God has washed me,
Mhm.
I'm a new creation, that gave the impact to my psyche that my psyche needed in order to let myself off the hook.
Okay.
And so discovering for me other ways of doing that
Yeah.
is part of my own growing process in real time.
And that's cool. You know, like when that external forgiveness allows you to see the value in yourself and allows you to heal yourself by forgiving yourself. I completely get that. I'm completely tracking with that. You know, but I don't think that it's, again, here we go. It's not binary.
No, it's not necessary. It's just a helpful frame.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. That's why I said I don't think it's a reality. It's just a
It's
helpful
not
frame.
it's not binary. It's not either or. You know, you have to have this in order to have that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's good, man. That's good. I'm like I said, I'm walking away with a whole bunch of stuff here.
Yeah, me too. All right, we've been going long enough on this, but this was a good topic.
Yeah, it
Good
was. Yeah, and
So why don't you
no, go
finish
ahead.
this? Give your final comments and wrap
No,
this up.
I was just saying that you know, one of the things that if I have a pat myself on the back moment,
Mm-hmm.
is that I've always given myself the license to grow, the license to change. You
Yeah,
know,
you have.
I think about how I grew up in a very Democrat leaning household,
Mm-hmm.
but I became a young Republican in high school, and I remained a Republican throughout most of my adult life. I was a conservative radio talk show host. I was a conservative talking head. I was a conservative columnist. I was a conservative politician, right? And all of these things. So, but then something got triggered. Something, upset my footing, and and it caused me to lean into a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful that I was able to grow through that, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be where I am now, and I doubt seriously that I would have the empathy and compassion for others that I do now, because I
Yeah.
was more rugged individualism, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, all of that good stuff. So having, being able to change is, I really believe that every human being needs to give themselves that license, because otherwise what happens is you become galvanizing your belief, galvanizing your thinking, galvanizing your actions, your habit, your character, and what happens is you become fixed. And like I said, the only time when something is fixed is when it's embalmed and put on display. You
Yeah.
know, and
Like
if
the
you,
Pope in the Vatican.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know where this stuff is
We
coming
just
from.
we have a bunch of bad metaphors today.
It's like chocolate whiskey. You're dragging your snake. Sorry, Derek. I'm
That's all
sorry.
right, man.
Please keep
You
going.
know, I'll play in the mud with you, man. It's no big deal.
You're
I
embalming
love
your own skin.
it.
I'm so sorry. That just you're
No,
embalming your own skin.
yeah, but and so like that, but that was a bad metaphor on my part,
No,
or
it's
bad
great.
illusion
It's
on my
gonna stick
part.
with people. I think it's great. I
Yeah,
think it'll stick with people.
but that's the thing, like when you're when you're fixed and ungrowing, fixed
Yeah.
and unchanging, fixed and galvanized. Basically, all you're ready for is to be dressed up, put on display, and prepared to be buried, because you're done. And here's the thing: physical death is not the only death. You can die intellectually, you can die emotionally, you can die spiritually,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all of that happens when you don't give yourself the license to change. So, everybody listening, give yourself the license to change.
Love it. Love it. Great show, man. I
Yep.
grew from this one. Growing in real time. Transformation through conversation.
Yes,
Everybody,
indeed.
thank you for all the comments. Sorry we didn't have time to get to them tonight. We love you. Appreciate you spending time with us. If you're watching this by replay, thank you so much for spending your time with us. And with that, we're going to say peace and hair grease, and we're out.
Love y'all. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Derek.